You're a defendant in a criminal case and you actually stand a chance of winning. Well, what can you do if you want to screw that up? Well, there's a multitude of things you can do. One of the first things is this. Make sure that you don't have clothes delivered to the jail so that you appear in your prison garb. Juries seem to like that a lot. And by the way, while you're there at the table and you're chained, make sure that you move around a lot so that the jury can hear the rattling of the chains, thinking that you're a menace to society, something that has to be caged or chained. That always helps. Of course, if you get clothes, make sure that they're clothes that don't fit, that don't look like they belong to you, or that have some sort of offensive cultural thing that's contrary to everybody on the jury. If that doesn't work, make sure that you whisper loudly to the attorney, voicing various complaints about this and that, so that your attorney can't hear things adequately to be able to defend you. Another thing that you might try is writing a lot of notes, writing a lot of diagrams, and looking about the courtroom, particularly back at people and things with a menacing sort of look. I remember a murder trial. This was really good, a memorable event, where the press was just trying to snap a picture of one of my clients, and they couldn't seem to get a shot of his face. And I said, well, look, just turn around a little bit so that they can see your face, and then they'll leave us alone. And he's sitting there saying, well, I'll just give them a menacing look. And I said, yeah, right. I said, that's going to really help you a lot. So the guy turns around and goes like this. Well, it wasn't easy for me to guess what picture was going to appear on the front page of the newspaper the next morning. It was that. And what really had helped was he had gone the extra step that night. This guy had beautiful hair. He looked like some sort of businessman. He had shaved his head to look like a skinhead. So you can imagine how that went over with the jury. Now, one thing that juries really love is a defendant that falls asleep during the middle of the trial. And it's even better if you can snore a lot, because that really shows you could really give a damn about what was going to happen. As things progress, of course, you realize, which all defendants sooner or later realize, especially when they're going to be convicted or are convicted, that it's all their attorney's fault. So jump up in the middle of this trial. Jump up and demand to be heard by that judge, that you are dissatisfied with the job that your attorney's doing, and that you're not going to put up with it, that you now want to represent yourself. Of course, the jury is going to be sent out. The judge is going to talk to you. The trial resumes. Another thing I found that really helps defendants get convicted, and they very often like to do, is, well, in most states, when you take the stand, the state can ask the defendant, how many times have you been convicted of a felony? Well, one of the really good things you can do, particularly if you've got a lot of felony convictions, is to get on the stand and testify on your own behalf. So when they ask you, how many times have you been convicted of a crime? Well, 22. Now, they can't go into the nature of what the offenses are. So that is some protection the defendant has. But look, don't let that stop you if you're a defendant that's out to get convicted. Because what you can do is you can volunteer what you've done. Look, I pled guilty to all those robberies and rapes, but I didn't do this case. I swear to God. That's the type of thing that helps you. Or you can do like somebody did in a bond reduction hearing. We had this client, and we were talking to him, and we're telling him, look, you go in there, all they're going to ask you, we'll ask you the questions about if you've got ties to the community, can you afford a bond, and you're not a danger to the community. All you did was steal a 6-pack of Bud from the local convenience store. Don't get in there and say something stupid like, some little girl got killed by the railroad tracks or something like that. Well, what does this defendant do? The defendant, of course, was more upset than we thought. And I got to admit, we might have been guilty of misreading this one, but the results were somewhat incredible. We go to the judge, we ask for this bond. And she says, well, it's just, a retail theft. I'm contemplating giving him a reasonable bond. What does the defendant do? Well, he must not have wanted a bond, because he jumps up, true story, and says, Judge, I swear to God, I don't know nothing about no little girl's body buried by no railroad tracks. And I'm like, whoa. Well, you know where he's still sitting, don't you? These are just a few things that you can do to crucify yourself in front of a jury. Any one of them are pretty good to assure that you will be swiftly convicted and you will be back on the bus to the jail, whereupon you will be transferred to the Department of Corrections for a long prison sentence.